Hello everyone, I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for October 14th, 2019, or now the 15th. So if you are watching this, it's because I didn't have any technical issues. I made a community post saying I probably wasn't going to post today. I might be able to sneak it in, so I'm going to try here. So if we don't have any technical issues, then you're seeing this video, then hooray. So we would normally start out with the patch notes for each week, but this week it's a little weird because we had 3.7 live. So if we went over the PTU patch notes that we had, it wouldn't really make much sense. So I figured, let's go over the known issues so you know what to avoid. And if you run into something, you're like, oh, okay, that's a known issue. They know it's a problem and they're going to hopefully fix it, or at least attempt to, right? So the first known issue would be for hand mineable rocks on planet and moon surfaces, or moon surfaces. You go around, and when you get out of your ship and you walk up to the rock that you found, you can't get to it because there's some invisible collision in the way. In the PTU, there were these rocks that were covering some of the hand mineable rocks, and when they removed them, they removed the art, but they didn't remove the collision. So that's that. Just when you run into an invisible wall, just move on to the next rock. Don't waste any more time. Other mining related known issue that's not on the known issues list right now, but they do know it. I reported it, and there were some devs that saw it. Is when you're in the prospector and you're mining, if you scan a rock, sometimes your cargo hold will go from whatever percentage you're at right now full to completely full, and then sometimes you have 0 SCU in your prospector when you go to sell it later. So there's some issues there. We think that the workaround is this. As you're scanning the rocks, make sure you're looking at your cargo capacity, and if it shoots up to 100 while you're scanning, go and sell, and you may be able to sell what was ever in your cargo hold up to that point. But if you continue to mine and actually bring anything else into the cargo hold from that point, it may cause that to bug out, and then you won't be able to sell anything. Wreck in Star Marine is still a complete mess, so when you go to purchase with Wreck or rent with Wreck a armor or weapon, it deducts the Wreck from your account, but it doesn't actually give you the product. Quantum Travel has a lot of issues, specifically with parties and groups. The workaround is to spread out, but we're still having issues even when pretty spread out as well. By spread out, it would probably be like, have some people in Crusader, have some people in Hurston, have some people in ArcCorp, like that spread out. Your Quantum Travel HUD goes away if you get out of your seat while you're quantum traveling. Missile countermeasures aren't working, so that's awesome. AI ships can get stuck in their pathing, and that's one where, like, I was trying to get into a Hurston hangar, and there was an AI ship that was just in the way. And ArcCorp is still not recommended to go around because you will quantum travel into the surface, potentially. But this was kind of a little workaround or idea that somebody said in my stream this morning, was that if ArcCorp is on the other side of the moon or on the other side of the planet, then you will run into that issue. So maybe if you quantum travel to some OMs, then you can get to the surface with no issues. But so try not to travel around anything in ArcCorp and try to go straight to it. So there's that. Moving on to roadmap updates, 3.7 being released really created almost no updates on the roadmap. So I think what is really kind of worth talking about here is the likelihood of next week having a 3.71 for our roadmap update. We'll have to see, as well as we should be seeing some major updates to 3.8 in the future on as far as the roadmap goes, because they should be coming up to these no-go meetings, excuse me, whether or not some features are going to make it into 3.8 or they're not. So that should be happening around now. I've been saying this for weeks, and I'm still expecting to see some major changes in the 3.8 roadmap really soon. And given that, I really don't think we've seen the true impact of staggered development just yet. I think we're going to see a lot of that next year, but we're definitely seeing small impacts, with 3.7 being less issue full than future patches. I know, like in the YouTube comments, a lot of people are saying that they're running into issues. I'm also running into issues, but it's not 3.5 and it's not 3.6, and it's not every other patch that we've had in the past. Every patch that we've had has been very buggy. This has been the most playable experience that I've had to date. So moving on to video updates. Obviously, we did not have an Inside Star Citizen this week. I think we have 2 more weeks off. But for Star Citizen Live, it was about the Mantis. So the first question there was, what do lawful people do with this ship? And Lando kind of comes in and gives a really nice lore explanation for it, and it makes a lot of sense, so check it out.
In the lore, RSI is a major military contractor. RSI is the maker of the Bengal carrier, for instance, so they definitely have their military contracts, and that the Mantis was something that would be used definitely by the advocacy.
Sure.
For instance, in their efforts to police the UAE space. And current marketing for the Mantis in our fiction is towards militias and stuff. We've had the UE mobile the militia initiative before. This is just one more thing like that to provide this ship to militias who are trying to defend outposts that are maybe on the outskirts of UE space. But there's plenty of lawful uses for the Mantis.
Sure.
So yeah, the idea of militias and private security makes total sense. It's kind of how we do bounty hunting right now in the Stanton system as well. So having that ship and using it for lawful purposes makes perfect sense to me. The only thing I'd like to see is how that's going to be implemented in the game. And I would have liked to see that be implemented with the Mantis when it was released. But, we have it for what we have it now and enjoy trolling everybody with it. The Mantis also has a very new look as far as RSI. And the number 1 most voted question was, is this the new RSI look?
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a departure. We really don't have that many RSI ships in the game. We have, the Aurora, we have, the Bengal, and what's the third one?
Constellation.
Constellation,
that
yes,
you worked on.
And those are all very military style ships. This one is a little bit sleeker. It was designed by a different person, Alex, one of our concept artists.
Yeah, we had him on the show last week.
I think it's kind of like a car manufacturer, that builds different cars. They don't all look the same, but they do share certain features with it. So if you look within the Mantis, you will see similarities or RSI language.
And Chris Smith tells us that obviously he gives a good example of with the car manufacturers, the Mercedes-Benz or the BMW, that they don't look the same from 1950 to now. They've iterated, and this is a similar kind of iteration on the RSI look, and I like it. It still looks very RSI, but it has slight differences, very much like cars work, so it all makes sense, just iteration. Now, this thing isn't necessarily about the Mantis, but it's a question that is important to me about the functionality of the Mantis versus other ships in terms of quantum dampening and preventing somebody from using their quantum drive. So it's about physicalized components, and they kind of go into what it takes to have that work a little bit.
One of the difficulties in the future, in the very near future, is going to be a concept that we want to introduce, which is being able to sub-target internal items, things like power plants and shield generators and the like. That's difficult because of the differences between how we actually physicalize items on the exteriors of ships and the interiors. Excuse me. However, because this is an external item, that should be something that we can solve.
So they're taking steps to making these components. They've made them, I think, physicalized at this point, but now it's a matter of having them have damage and reaching through your ship's hull to damage these components inside the ships. So it's a very complicated experience, and what they said was easy at the end was that the Mantis component, the QED, is actually on the outside of the ship. So targeting that and damaging that via ship fire is a lot easier to do from a technical standpoint, as well as from just like a gameplay standpoint as well. How should we use the Mantis is kind of comes from this next discussion here, and I feel like I shouldn't tell you this, but they basically talk about how planets and moons orbit and how it affects you, and how it will affect you and your Mantis as well.
This goes what Kirk's saying, that quantum drive isn't always traveling in a straight line. What depends on your perspective. So if I'm traveling and I'm going from point A to B, it will look like I'm in a straight line. But the moment you hit one of those planets that orbit, from your point of view, you're going in a straight line, but from like another person's point of view, you're actually orbiting around, because as you orbit, you're traveling toward the planet.
So long story short, if you basically say, okay, I want to quantum interdict people going from Port Olisar to Yella. If you go to Yella, then you're going to rotate around Yella, but Port Olisar isn't going to rotate necessarily. So people coming from Port Olisar are going to land in a different location than where you are. And this is even a minute later. So from the time it took me to quantum travel to Yella, stop my quantum drive somewhere in between, and turn on my quantum interdictor, I had rotated around with Yella enough that I could not quantum interdict somebody that was leaving from Port Olisar just a minute later. So basically, if you're going to quantum interdict, you want to quantum interdict from the place that people are coming from. So for example, you would want to be much closer to Port Olisar and grab people in your net rather than be at the location that they're going to. So I hope that makes sense to you. I try to explain things that well, but I am not the best explainer. So now for all the miscellaneous updates, this is probably like the biggest section of today's show. We obviously have some ships for sale now that 3.7 is live. The RSI Mantis is for sale. It's 135 for Warbond, and the Warbond comes with the Quirinus Tech Flight Suit as an extra, and this thing looks pretty sick. And it's also a $150 ship with store credit, and you get a special upgrade from the Aurora, which I believe also provides the flight suit. Then you also have the Banu Defender for sale, which is 185 Warbond with no bonus. I would have loved to see some, like, I don't know, hangar flare, something cool, something Banu, right? Come with a Warbond for the first Banu ship, really, that we have in game. Like, to celebrate that. I wish they didn't do anything for the Mantis, and I wish they did something for the Defender personally. $220 with store credit, and obviously the Vanguard variant. So the Harbinger is 280 Warbond, 290 with store credit, Sentinel 265 and 275. And also last week we missed this one. Buybacks are out as of the 7th, so make sure you take advantage of those because they do not carry over to the following quarter. Ship Showdown is complete, the Caterpillar one, and they put up this kind of interesting video to hype us up, I guess, for CitizenCon when they're going to do the second part of that promotion. So the first promotion was all these ships are battling against each other and they're available for sale during the battles, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the promotion come CitizenCon, as well as their October contests, which are pumpkin carving and a caves horror screenshot contest. So get out there and enjoy those. And that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I rushed this one out as best as I could, so I apologize if the quality isn't up to your snuff anymore, but we will make sure we get back on it next week. So thank you again for watching. Hit the likes, the comments, and hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want more in the future. And I'll see you guys next week.